So picture this Sophie Cunningham, when the most outspoken, unapologetic voices on the Indiana Fever pulls out a phone, opens TikTok, and posts a video. She's not naming names, she's not swearing up a storm, she's not out here attacking anyone personally, but what she does say that the refs are slow, stupid, and useless. That was a line, that was the moment, and it hit harder than any buzzer beater because suddenly within hours the WNBA front office was on high alert. If you're here for the real story and not to filter version, subscribe, and if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe, not because of missed calls and a key game, not because of another player getting level with no foul, but because a TikTok got spicy. And just like that, boom, a $500 fine. Now, let's be real, $500 is nothing to Sophie. This is some one with endorsements, partnerships, and a fan base that keeps her brand thriving. She could pay that fine before lunch and made her money back before dinner with one Instagram story. So the lead thought the fine would shut down. All they did was give her the biggest microphone in the room, because here's the part they forgot: this isn't just a fine, it's a symbol, it's a message from the WNBA, a thing we see your truth and we don't like it. And that right there, that's the problem. Sophie didn't lie, she didn't exaggerate. She said what every fan has been thinking for weeks: the officiating has been inconsistent, confusing, and at times just plain dangerous. Players are getting thrown to the ground. Stars Caitlin Clark, Io Wilson, and sub Bring a UNESCO are getting fouled hard with barely whistle. Phantom calls come out of nowhere while obvious hacks are ignored. And what is the lead? Do they find the players were speaking up? They crack down on social media. Not bad officiating, they protect the optics instead of the athletes. Let that sink in. Instead of addressing why players feel so unsafe, unheard, and unfairly treated, the WNBA is treating TikTok like criminal activity. Meanwhile, the ref, no statements, no accountability, no suspension, just silence. Sophie Cunningham wasn't just venting, she was standing up. She saw fans are already screaming about online. She heard the chatter in locker rooms, the frustration from her teammates, and exhausted to try and play elite-level basketball under what feels like a different rule book every game. So she said it plain and simple, and honestly, that's what made the lead panic, because players are getting louder and social media, that's their megaphone. You think it's a coincidence, or more and more WNBA athletes are turning to TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter to call things out? Nope, it's strategy, it's survival. Because of the league won't protect them, they'll protect each other. They'll build support to their own platforms. They'll air the truth with lead, can't censor it. And for every $500 fine, they gained 5,000 more fans who say, finally someone saying it. And let's really talk about that double standard for a second. In the NBA, players you fine tens of thousands for criticizing ref, but they also get listened to. Their follow-ups, reports, transparency, even apologies. In the WNBA, you define have $1,000 and then nothing, no press release, no response from the ref, no acknowledgement that maybe, just maybe, the players have a point. It's performative discipline with zero accountability. And that's why Sophie's TikTok wasn't just event session, it was a warning shot. It was her saying, we see you, we're not blind, and we're not would be silent anymore. Because Elite has been dancing on his title for months now by balancing explosive growth with fragile trust, and right now that rope is done fray. Let's not forget viewership is dipping, and when Clark set out with injury, ticket prices dropped, ratings slowed, the hype machine stalled. The league is benefiting from the star power of a few key players, while Simon, Tennessee Linden get bullied on court and muzzled off of it. What kind of message does that send? Thanks for the money, now shut up. No wonder fans are furious. No wonder players are going rogue on social, because at this point TikTok is more transparent, and the WNBA his own post-game reports. And it gets worse, that $500 fine isn't just symbolic, it's insulting, because when the lead fined a player like Sophie Cunningham, someone has been bringing fire, hustle, and personality to a team that desperately needed it. They're not just punishing a TikTok, they're punishing passion, they're punishing honesty. They're punishing the very thing that makes the league marketable in the first place: authenticity. You on sell jerseys, grow the fan base, and get media coverage. Cool, but guess what comes with that scrutiny? And when that scrutiny starts to reflect poorly on the officiating, the answer isn't silence the player, it's fix the problem. Instead, they hit Sophie with slap on the wrist fine and hope the noise would die down. Spoiler alert, it didn't. If anything, it lit a fire They're because now players are rallying, fans are paying closer attention, comment sections are flooded with Sophie was right. YouTube creators, podcast years, and sports commentators are picking up the story. The Streisand effect is in full swing. The lead tried to silence one voice and accidentally amplified entire conversation, and here's the poetic irony: that $500 fine, it's already made Sophie more relevant than any ref she criticized, because now she's not just a player, she's a symbol of what happens when athletes choose truth over politeness, when a user platforms not just for brand deals, but for change. And she's not alone. Every time a league tries to push down the voices of his players, whether it's Caitlin being shoved and ignored or Sophie being fired for telling the truth, the real WNBA reveals itself. Not scripted commercials, not the curated all-star Instagram feeds. The real WNBA, where players are fighting for respect not just from fans or media, but from their own league. And if they're not careful, that $500 fine will be the receipt that players point when they say, "We told you, you just and listen." So, to the WNBA front office, you can keep any out fines, but the players are ongoing. Get louder, the tic-tacs will keep coming, the call out won't stop, because what Sophie Cunningham exposed in a few seconds video is something that's been bubbling for years, and now the silence is finally breaking. The league thought it could control the narrative. That quick $500 fine would host the moment, slap the sticker, have a crack, and we'd all move on like business as usual. But here's the thing, this is not business as usual anymore. Not when players are getting elbowed in the face without a whistle, not when games are decided by phantom calls, not when referees are becoming the storyline more than the players themselves. And definitely not when a TikTok, a literal 1-minute video, has more clarity, passion, and truth. And the WNBA, his entire officiating system, Sophie Cunningham, wasn't being petty, she wasn't seeking clout, she was doing what the league should have been doing all season. Telling the truth, because while the WNBA has made massive stride in visibility, audience engagement, in revenue growth, has been tripping over itself in the basics, things like player safety, consistent rules, respect. Let's be honest, the fans aren't tuning in to watch referees miss another obvious call. They're showing up because of the players, the ones diving for loose balls, hitting logo threes, and leaving it all on a court night after night, even when your fishing feels like it's working against them. And Sophie, she finally said what everyone else was too scared to say out loud, that the referees aren't just making mistakes, they're making the game harder to love. And you know, it's wild, the WNBA didn't even bother to deny what she said. They did release a statement clarifying the officiating. They didn't offend the ref, they didn't provide receipts, data, or transparency, they just fined her $500. As a number so small, it's practically insulting, a number that says we want to punish you, but not enough to make us look serious. It's like dropping a parking ticket in someone's locker and pretending it's justice. But for fans, for players, that fine wasn't small, it was symbolic. Because now every player who has ever bit their tongue after a brutal non-call is watching. Every rookie haven't told just focus on basketball is watching. Every fan who saw Caitlin Clark get show the floor no foul, who saw Io Wilson get smacked across the wrist when no whistle, who saw game after game spiral into chaos because of inconsistent officiating, they're all watching. And the league's response: silence and a fine. And here's where things get even more twisted. The WNBA try to monetize authenticity while punishing it. They want players to be personalities. They want marketable drama on court, fire, big statements, social engagement. They want Sophie Cunningham's gritty edge and Caitlin Clark's Midwestern and charm and Angel Reese's unapologetic confidence. But those personalities speak out about real issues. Fine is like the league want the image of rebellion without the mass, wants a viral moments without the uncomfortable truth, wants a jersey sales without the accountability. But players aren't dumb, they know they are the product, they know the game does it run without them. And now, the day of social media, they don't need press conferences or filtered PR soundbites, they have their own voice. And the league hate that, because it's not just Sophie, she's just the latest look around the league. TikTok, Instagram stories, cryptic tweets, it's all there. Players are building their own narrative, their own empires, and their own followings, and more importantly, they're started back each other up. When Sophie posted that video, it wasn't just her in the spotlight, it was a ripple effect. The lit up, group chats were buzzing, teammates were nodding, opponent were secretly cheering, and fans were rallying behind her with one clear message: we've had enough. Because there's something deeply wrong when officiating becomes a weekly controversy, when players have to brace themselves for what might or might not get called, when referees act like untouched kings instead of trained professionals, and instead of addressing that the WNBA is playing whack-a-mole with TikTok Earth, it's wilded backwards, and it start to feel desperate. Let's zoom out for a second. Think about what the WNBA is trying be right now: a top-tier league commanding global attention, and finally get the respect it deserves. And it's so close. You got generational talents like Caitlin Clark, Aya Wilson, and Brianna Stewart on the floor. At the same time, you go highlight reels going viral, merge flying off the shelves, TV ratings shattering records. You have a chance to change the game forever. But you also have referees ruining momentum, missed calls derailing comebacks, sloppy whistles turning potential classics into Twitter debates about fairness. And when players who are literally risking their bodies every night dare to comment on it, they get a financial slap on the wrist. Meanwhile, the refs protected, shielded, silent. And maybe that's what stings them most: not the missed calls, not defined, but message: we hear you, we just don't care. And here's what the league's not ready for: the longer they ignore this, the louder go and get. Because of Sophie Cunningham can take a $500 fine and walk out with more support than ever before. Guess what happens when 5 more players post something, or 10? In or the whole locker room. You think fans are going to side with the lead? No chance. Fans love the players. They follow them, not the WNBA account. They buy their jerseys, not the commissioner blazer. They want to see authenticity, not policing. And that's what Sophie just proved: the power shifting. Players are claiming the narrative. They're done waiting for press releases and closed-door meetings. They're taking it straight to the court, the camera, and the timeline. And unless the league starts listening, these fines won't stop the truth from coming out to speed it up. Because this isn't just about officiating anymore. It's about freedom: the freedom to speak up without punishment, the freedom to call out injustice without fear, the freedom to love the game while demanding better from the people running it. And Sophie Cunningham, she didn't just post a TikTok, she posts a challenge to her teammates, to the league, to the fans. I'm saying, who else will? And from the looks of it, a lot of people are ready to answer. This wasn't just about a fine. This was a full-blown referendum on how the WNBA treated players, especially the loud ones. See, Sophie isn't just another every venting after a tough loss. She's a culture shock. She's part this new wave of players who know they're more than jerseys and stats. Their media brands, their online voices, their movement starters. And when she grabbed her phone and hit record, she did something the league clearly wasn't ready for. She pulled back the curtain. The league wants us to see the highlights, the commercials, the slow-mo layups and buzzer beaters. But Sophie's video, that was a raw feed, that was a behind the scenes that corporate PR nightmares are made of. And let's be real, she didn't even say anything outrageous. No names, no slurs, no targeted attacks, just a brutally honest opinion. The officiating is slow, stupid, and useless. Now, let's pause. Was it dramatic? Yeah. Was it harsh? Definitely. But was it wrong? That's where things get complicated, because you ask any player of record, and they'll tell you the same thing: the refs this season have been straight up chaotic. Blown calls, inconsistent enforcement, obvious fouls ignored, while ticket tack one that called in clutch moments. It's like flipping a coin every time someone drives to the rim. And when players push back, silence, unless of course they make it public, then suddenly bam, a $500 fine. And a whole lot of this conduct is unbecoming energy, unbecoming of who, though, unbecoming of a lead that wants authenticity, unbecoming of a star who's finally saying what fans are yelling their screens. Because here's what the lead doesn't get: players are not PR pawns anymore. They are proud, but they are the show. They are the reason fans care. And when they speak up, it shouldn't be seen as defiance. It should be seen as feedback, urgent, honest, passionate feedback from the very people who make the WNBA worth watching. Instead, the responses of fine so laughably small, it's not even bother me money, it's about the message, watch your mouth. But Sophie's not the type to back down, and honestly neither of the fans, because what followed that fine with something lead and expect support, loud, unwavering, mean-filled comments section, exploding support. And not just from Indiana Fever fans either. Players across the league, former athletes, podcast Earth, even casual sports viewers all started chiming in. Some said fine was petty, others said it was proof the league doesn't want the truth getting out, and most they say what Sophie said is exactly what needed to be said. And that's where the story flips. This wasn't a PR Our crisis for Sophie, it was a PR wake-up call for the WNBA because you can't do to league around empowered women and then punish them for actually being empowered. You can't run ads about owning your voice and then fine a player the moment she uses hers. You know what that is, that performative progress, that branding without backbone. And of the WNBA, keep going down this road prioritizing image management over internal improvement, it's going to lose the very people keeping it relevant. The players and their communities here is a part of most damning. Sophie's video was funny, it was cheeky, it was venting, but also real. She was frustrated, sure, but she wasn't malicious, she wasn't out of control. She was doing what players have always done in barbershops, locker rooms, and post-game group chat. Just now she's doing it on camera, and that's what the league really fears. Not slander, not disrespect, exposure. Because of Sophie can go viral over 45-second rant. What happens when other players start doing the same? What happens when one video becomes 5, when 5 becomes movement, when suddenly hashtag fix the rest are trending? Not because of journalists wrote a feature, but because the players themselves start leading the charge. That's not rebellion, that's a revolution, and the lead knows it, because when players go direct to fans, no middleman, no PR filter, that's power. And that's what this fine was really about, not punishing Sophie, but sending a warning to everyone else. Don't you dare follow her lead too late, because Sophie's not a rogue agent, she's a mirror reflecting everything league has been trying to avoid, and the fans, they've already picked side. They're not here for sanitized press releases, they're here for passion, fire, and accountability. And when they see a lead try to squash that, it doesn't dare trust. It makes people ask questions like, why the league more offended by a TikTok than by its own officiating errors? Why do players have to risk fine just to be heard? Why we still dealing with inconsistent refereeing and a lead that try and grow on a global scale? And most importantly, why are players like Sophie Cunningham doing more for transparency than the league itself? This fine has backfired in every way. Sophie comes out of this looking real, related, bull and brave. The WNBA, a defensive, fragile corporate. But hey, maybe that was a point. Maybe this had happened to force a deeper conversation. Maybe the only way to get change is to stop asking nicely and start posting honestly, because fines, they are temporary, but momentum, that's permanent. And Sophie's tick talked into spark a moment.